Hello, it's 12 noon, it's July the 25th, it's Jenna here, and it is great to have your company on this very special Somerset Cool show today. And I say that because this show is dedicated to Exmoor Ponies, the breed, their life, and some of the issues they face. And it features a conversation I've been really excited to share with you for a little while. So wherever you're listening from today, do grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and discover more about the world of these wonderful ponies. Yes, today you're going to be hearing from author, founder of the Exmoor Pony Project and wild pony whisperer, Dawn Westcott. Dawn's committed to the preservation of the Exmoor ponies, as well as focusing on improving welfare and the treatment of these beautiful free-living animals. We'll be finding out more about that, more about the project and some of the ponies that have touched Dawn's life, and we'll also be digging a little deeper into some of the most pressing issues surrounding the breed. And I have to say, I've learnt so much talking with Dawn, so I really hope you enjoy today's conversation. And as always, I'd love to hear from you if you're listening. Even though the programme isn't live, you can get in touch with me by emailing Jen, that's JENN, at somersetcool.com, or by messaging me on Twitter or Instagram at Somerset Cool or at FroomFM, and we can have a chat on social. Now, if you're a regular listener to the show, I am sure you'll be expecting a link to ponies in my song choices today. And of course, you won't be disappointed.
2, 3, 4. Woo-hoo. 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 Well, my heart knows it better than I know myself, so I'm gonna let it do all the talking. Woo-hoo. I came across a place in the middle of nowhere with a big black horse and a cherry tree. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. I felt a little fear upon my back. I said, don't look back, just keep on walking. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. But the big black horse said, look this way. He said, hey, that day will you marry me? Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. But I said no, 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 no. I said no, no, you're not the one for me. No, 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 no. I said no, no, you're not the one for me. Ooh. And my heart hit a problem in the early hours, so I stopped it dead for a beat or two. Ooh. Ooh. But I cut some cord and I shouldn't have done it, and it won't forgive me after all these years. Ooh. Ooh. So I sent it to a place in the middle of nowhere with a big black horse and a cherry tree. Ooh. Ooh. Now I won't come back cause it's all so happy, and now I got a hole for the world to see. Yeah. Ooh. And it said no, 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 no. Said no, no, you're not the one for me. No, 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 no. Said no, no, you're not the one for me. Ooh. Not the one for me. Ooh. No, 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 no. Ooh. No, no. Ooh. No, no. You're not the one for me. Big black horse and a cherry tree. I
Kicking off the show with Katie Tunstall there, of course, and Black Horse and the Cherry Tree. Some great topical tunes coming up for you throughout today's show. But without any more delay, let's begin our chat with author, wild pony whisperer, founder of the Exmoor Pony Project, and twice International Horse Agility World Champion, Dawn Westcott. There is literally no one better placed to share their thoughts and expertise with us. And I started off by asking Dawn to tell us a little bit about the background of the breed.
Exmoor ponies are one of the UK's most ancient native pony breeds, and they bear an amazing resemblance to the little horses that you see in the really ancient cave paintings. So we know they've been around for a very long time. And they were really lucky to survive Henry VIII when he decreed that all horses in Britain under 15 hands must be killed.
Gosh.
And only the stubbornness of the farmers and people who knew the ponies on Exmoor was that they just didn't record it. They just said, yes, all our horses are 15 hands and over, and the ponies were saved, but they very nearly got wiped out then.
Gosh.
They have been around for a very, very long time, and because they've had to live in very challenging environments in Exmoor, what is now Exmoor National Park, with these upland moorlands, very cold winters, hostile conditions and weather, and finding it quite hard to find food, they've had to evolve to be very tough, very resilient to a lot of rain and wind and cold, able to eat a lot of rough forage and not necessarily always be able to get to sort of nice grassy areas. Although we've got to remember that it's only in modern times that cattle grids and fences have been put up. So back along, the ponies would naturally go up to the upland areas when they like those kind of conditions, and they'd migrate down to the more coastal areas and grassy areas like Porlock Marshes when they wanted to come down either for shelter or for food or whatever. So they use the amazing landscape of the Exmoor area to find the food they need, find the shelter they need, and basically survive largely independently of humans.
Yes.
And that has evolved into this incredible, intelligent, resourceful, and incredibly tough little pony that you see today.
Wow, and they live in herds, don't they?
Yes. Nowadays, Exmoor is divided up into a series of moorland enclosures. So you have different areas like Withypool Common, Anstey Common, Moorland Moor, Brendon Common, the big moorland area at Countersbury, the Dunkery Commons. So they're big enclosures, sometimes, thousands of acres. And they're all fenced with hedges and fencing and cattle grids. So all Exmoor ponies are owned, but they are divided up into specific herds that live in these specific areas. And they're owned by farmers or other private owners, or, for example, the Exmoor National Park Authority has 2 herds, the National Trust has a herd. And so each pony is known and listed and registered, and the owners know exactly who they are and where they're running. So although they live in these semi-feral enclosures, they are all managed, quite specifically. Not all the ponies run on the moor, and you need to be breeding and having Exmoor ponies in other different areas of the country. So some live on farms and some live more normal equestrian, livery yard or private setting. So you've got your domestic Exmoor ponies, the ponies that the moorland herd owners or other herd owners don't want to run on the moor. And then you've got these wonderful semi-feral herds that are all retaining what we call their genetic and learned behaviours of extensively grazing free-living animals. So they're retaining everything that you want the traditional Exmoor pony to have.
Wow, and it's fascinating, Dawn, isn't it? And you started the Exmoor Pony Project. So can you tell us a little bit about that, how you got started and what the focus of that project really is?
Yes, so in the early 2000s, I got my first Exmoor pony, closely followed by 3 more Exmoor ponies, some colts that came off the moor. And so I was just a private owner with a few Exmoor ponies. Then I met and married my husband, Nick, in 2008. And he's an Exmoor farmer whose family has been in and around Exmoor for over 500 years. And his great-grandfather was a founding committee member of the Exmoor Pony Society, and he and his three brothers established three of the original herds. So we managed to get herd 11 back into the Westcott family, and we bred our first foal in 2009. So that's what we had at that time, our own little herd, and we were, bumbling along, doing a bit of showing, doing a bit of breeding. And then we realised in 2013 that there was actually quite a problem with some of the moorland herds, and Nick had known the moorland farmers all his life, and we started talking to them, and they were having dreadful problems trying to get passports and to register their ponies quickly in the autumn when their foals had to come off the moor, when the herds were gathered, and particularly colt foals had to be found homes, pretty quickly. And so we started asking questions and finding out that actually some of the farmers had been encouraged to slaughter their foals rather than try and register them. And we were absolutely horrified, and we sat around the kitchen table with farmer after farmer just saying, oh my goodness, why? And they said, well, we give the DNA sample, but it takes really ages. Sometimes we don't get a passport. Sometimes it takes months. We're told that there's no market for the foals. We're told they're too difficult to register. And the farmers hadn't been talking to each other. They'd just been getting more and more depressed and upset.
Yes.
And we said, well, hold on, we've got to do something about this. So we decided that summer that in the autumn, we would buy some of the foals from different farmers. And then when we went to one particular herd, we turned up on the inspection day, and we were faced with the inspectors, the breed site inspectors, saying to us, we're not going to inspect them. And then we said, we will buy some of these foals if you inspect them. And they refused.
Gosh.
And so my husband said to the farmer, he said, what's going to happen if they're not inspected today? And he said, they'll be shot, because I can't do anything with uninspected foals when there's months of delay, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get a passport. So we said, look, we'll take some foals. And we then took those foals through the inspection process ourselves at our farm. We followed up the DNA, so we knew exactly how long it took. And what transpired was that all those foals were registerable, and they were all, by the licensed moorland stallions that had been running with them. So there was really no excuse to not inspect them on the inspection day. And that was really the sort of catalyst of what made us realise that we must stand up and challenge the registration system and the obstructions that Exmoor ponies are facing. And it wasn't just related to that herd. And I wrote then in 2015 a book through the experience of a orphan foal that we rescued from the Dunkery Commons. I wrote about the project and all these stories and what was happening in my book Wild Pony Whispering. And over the years, like the next year I wrote Wild Stallion Whispering, and the year after that I wrote Wild Herd Whispering. And through real life stories of the actual Exmoor ponies that we've been associated with, I've been able to tell the story of what the ponies face and their sort of quest for survival through this registration system.
So the project emerged out of your drive to help conserve the Exmoor pony breed and to try and affect change in that registration process. And the project does a number of things, doesn't it?
The Exmoor Pony Project has got some various elements to it. One of them is the direct care of the ponies that we have here. We have over 30 Exmoor ponies in our herd here. They're from our own herd 11, and they're also from, I think, around 10 different herds. That includes ponies with rare genetics, some of these important, unrecognised but pure Exmoor ponies, some of the best Exmoor ponies in the breed, and from time to time a pony that's been in difficulties, say, an orphan from the moor, or a pony that is in a difficult spot. So we've got an eclectic mix of different types, colours, sizes, personalities of ponies that all live together in this big herd. The purpose of this herd, as well as conservation of those particular ponies, is that they're doing a wonderful job promoting the breed out there to the world with their antics, with pictures, with footage, with the things that they get involved in and the way that they live. It's bringing interest to the breed. and we can help people understand more about Exmoor ponies.
I don't think I could end it better this way. All I have is a photograph, and if loneliness can hurt as much as being cold, come over here, woman, and touch me. You look so electric. 'Cause all I ask is a second chance. Stroll on, lady, stroll on. While this is with diamonds in your hair, when you smile, you make my world resolve and you take over. While this is with diamonds in your hair, when you smile, you make my world resolve and you take over, my babe. To match it. Well, maybe you think you just can't get me out of your head. Don't try to resist it, 'cause we're getting stronger the closer we become. You're singing my life. Stroll on, lady, stroll on, take it to the edge. Then you take over. While this is with diamonds in your hair, when you smile, you make the world resolve and you take over. While this is with diamonds in your hair, when you smile, you make my world resolve and you take over. For how long? How long? Oh, my baby.
You're listening to Somerset Cool with me, Jenna Myles, and that was Seal and Wild, in honour of some of the wild Exmoor ponies we're talking about on today's Exmoor Pony special with Dawn Westcott. And it's fascinating hearing Dawn's insight, isn't it? And I must admit, I've been reading one of Dawn's books, Wild Pony Whispering, which features Dawn's story of how an orphaned Exmoor pony foal helped her further understand the ponies of Exmoor. And I wanted to hear more about Monsieur Chapeau, the pony who features in that book. But first, we chatted about how Dawn connects with these special ponies and what their characters are like.
Well, you've got to remember that the Exmoor ponies have evolved not being bred, for man's convenience.
Yeah.
The Exmoor ponies have actually evolved so that it's the most intelligent, the most robust, the bravest, the canniest, the ones that are good at problem solving, the ones that know where to find food or find a shelter, the ones that organise themselves well as a herd and use their resources to survive some of the harshest conditions and then breed and be successful. They are incredibly interesting. They're thinkers. And when you look into the eyes of an Exmoor pony, the number of people who comment on it is amazing. They say, oh my goodness, I am being studied. I'm being analysed. There's a really sentient creature there looking at me and just deciding what they think of me.
Yeah.
So you're reminded you know, every time you look or deal with an Exmoor pony, and it's been said, when you ask an Exmoor pony to do something, their first answer is, why should I? It's not, yes, I'll do that. It's, why should I? Why is that a good thing? Why should I want to do that?
I can understand that.
So really, mutual respect is very important, and fair play is very important. And also, because they are masters at the subtleties of body language and reading each other and reading any situation, you know, to decide if it's safe primarily, whether it's somewhere they want to stay or something they're interested in, or whether it's something they should avoid. So all the time that you're communicating with them, you've got to remember that you must be clear and comprehensive and fair and trustworthy as you can possibly be. So the Exmoor ponies are absolute masters in training us in horsemanship. And so I do have head collars and lead ropes and all that kind of stuff, but an awful lot of the stuff that I do with my ponies is what we call at liberty, which is free of restraint. Particularly working with a big herd, I have to call them sometimes. You know, I want them to come from fields away back home. And so if you can see that a herd's no distance, fields away, for a start, you will always see the sentries. There's always one or two ponies that can see what's happening back up at the farm or in the direction of the farm, and they're on guard to watch.
Yes.
Okay, so if I appear from a long way away and stand there, and the sentries will immediately see me, so they will send a ripple of, she's here, and now we'll all wait to see what she wants. And I've learned that if you actually feel the intention in your sort of heart centre or your solar plexus, and you engage your kind of core energy, and then you call them, you're sending your intention and a clarity of communication to them, which is very much what they're like with each other.
Gosh.
So they are teaching that to me. I've really got to feel it.
Yes.
And convey it, and then you just can't believe what it's like when that herd moves and you see them come over the brow of the hill, and they'll just cascade through the fields and come exactly where I want them to go. That could be over 30 of them, you know.
Gosh.
And you just stand there when they're galloping past, and again, if you're in the present moment, you're feeling the intention, you're aware of your energy centres. That is also very helpful in not getting run over. And the time you're most likely to get knocked over by an Exmoor pony is if you're distracted, thinking about something entirely different. You're not being mindful. You're not being spatially aware. And I've done that a number of times while they've been teaching me. And you'll feel a bump in your back. Sometimes I've been knocked flat on the ground, and it's been a bit feisty. I've got a little tiny Exmoor pony called Blossom, who's absolutely fearsome, and she's absolute darling unless she thinks you're not in the present moment and not being as she thinks you should be. And she's absolutely brilliant. Give me a whop.
And that serves you right, she probably thinks. Tell us about some of the ponies in your herd who've really touched you.
Well, I think, you know, I have to mention Bear, the senior stallion. He attracted my attention straight away. He's 17 now. So when he was a newly weaned foal from the moor, I went to the Moor and Mousey Trust, and I'd already got one lovely Exmoor pony from them before, Harry. And I went to foster 3 colts. And they had a lot of colts that year because, you know, if the herd owners have a lot of colts rather than fillies, it's much easier for the fillies to stay on the moor in different herds, and actually sometimes to sell fillies. It can be quite tricky if you've got a year when there's a lot of colts, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, organisations like the Know Exmoor Trust and our Exmoor Pony Project try to help to find homes for the colts. And I went along that year, and I looked in the barn, and he was right at the back, trying to keep out of the way, just staring at me with the biggest eyes that you could imagine.
Oh.
And he's never lost that ability to just be magnetic. And I took him with 2 others, and he was completely wary. He'd been hot branded, which, you know, at the time they were branding them with up to 7 brands on their shoulders and rumps.
Gosh.
Horrific hot brands. And it had absolutely, it apparently caused a dreadful reaction in him while he was being branded. And when you subject an unhandled, wild-born foal to forced restraint by a group of people and then being heavily hot branded repeatedly with hot irons, some ponies will go into a state of shutdown. Others will exacerbate their natural fear-based responses, like Bear. Very, very much it's affected him in a fear-based way. And other ponies, I've got one the same age, Otis, it will exacerbate anger-based responses. So it will make them more aggressive. And, for example, if a strange man, even now, 17, came and tried to touch Otis, he would attack.
Yes, and you can totally understand it, can't you? It's barbaric.
It is barbaric. And Bear really taught me how it can negatively, affect them. So yes. I had quite a time taming Bear. It really was difficult. He stayed at the back of this little group of colts all the time, and then had extreme reactions, like he would burst through post and rail fencing if you tried to approach him, and it was all quite tricky. So I remember running them into a barn, and then there was a great big wooden gate, and a kind of stable enclosure. So I thought, well, if I get him in there, that's quite open, and I'll put him in there, I'll shut the gate, and he was in there. And I walked in very quietly and thinking, I'll just stand in the stable with him. And I slid the bolt, and there was this sort of whoosh of air, and he just appeared at my ear as he launched and hit over the top of the gate. This gate was smashed out of resin bolts in the wall and went with a crash on the floor. And then he galloped up the top of the barn with the other two. I tell you, I sat down and I just cried because I thought, I love this pony so much, but I'm never going to be able to tame him.
Yeah.
So my book, Wild Stallion Whispering, is all about that story. And eventually I did tame him, and he has actually astonished us. He's obviously a very good quality pony because he's stood supreme breed champion of the whole breed. He's very highly trainable and really taught me about taking off the head collar and working at liberty, and through trust-based methods, getting the pony to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. And we started learning horse agility in 2010, and in 2011 and 2012, we won 2 year-long World Championship leagues.
It's amazing.
And I was just amazed at how trainable he was, and how he could learn to jump through hoops, navigate weave poles, do wild agility, all without any restraint. When I'd asked him to leave his mares, and sometimes mares and foals, and come with me and do this. He's been a fantastic riding pony, and he has been one of the best ambassadors for the breed that, in the history of Exmoor Ponies. And now, so we decided 2 years ago to have a very special stay at the Western County Equine Hospital, and he was gelded, and it has given him another whole phase of his life because he now runs with the big herd. He's with his former wives and progeny. He's with his old friends that he couldn't run with before, and he's now boss of this huge herd, and it's wonderful life for him, really. And his young son Yogi Bear, who's 5, is continuing, he's now the stallion here. So, but Bear, very, very special, and has a huge piece of my heart, really. So.
Oh, Bear sounds like an incredible pony, Dawn, and it's amazing to hear what he means to you.
And on another side of things, completely, Bear has been champion of the breed, brilliant at this, brilliant at that, producing wonderful progeny. But it's not all about that. And another pony who is just an absolute angel is the little, in 2014, we saw some pictures on the internet of a poor, bedraggled orphan foal, about 4 months old, a late foal. It was in the January, and he'd somehow been separated from his herd and his mother. Survived, it looked like, for a while on his own, gradually begun to starve because he was up in the Dunkery Commons in a sort of wooded cleave, but it was all in January, no vegetation, just rotted leaves and horrible rain. And he was stumbling around, and he had pneumonia, was wheezing. It looked like he was, on his last legs.
Yes.
And we're moorland farmers, so we managed those commons with the other graziers, and we went out there to see if we could get hold of him, and if we could, try and get him down to the horse trailer. And that little chap sunk to his knees, let us put a head collar on him, and then he collapsed, I think about 8 times on the way down the cleeve. We just took it really slowly. And we eventually got him to the trailer, and he walked in the trailer. So we brought him home, and he couldn't get up on his own for 10 days. If you helped him stand up, he'd stand up for ages, and then he'd go and lie down on his bed.
Yes.
And the vet came and gave him all the treatments for pneumonia and probiotics and all that stuff. And he was this poor little bedraggled, an absolute skeleton, very thick coat, but you could feel all his bones jutting out. But the first thing he did when he came back and stood in that stable, he sniffed my nose and just kept his nose close to my face. And the bond that was established that day was just incredible.
Gosh.
And then the other foals from the project came in from the field, and they all lined up against this, where they could look through to him. And, he knew he was amongst other foals, and they were brilliant. One of them particularly, Lady Stumpkin Pumpkin, when he was strong enough, she asked to come into his area, and she would come in and lie down with him for ages and muck about. And then when we did get him outside with the others for little sort of forays outside as he got stronger, she would always be there, always look after him, wouldn't let anyone else.
It's so lovely, isn't it? I'm welling up listening to you talk about him. I do know about him, and I can't wait for you to tell us a little bit more, because he is really a beautiful, beautiful pony.
He's so wise. He's just got this incredible wisdom and calmness. And at the time, I have to say, I was quite overfaced then with all these wild foals to tame. And I was taking my time and trying to work out what was the best thing to do to win their trust, and doing a little session with each of them every day. And I noticed that things vastly started to improve, because Monsieur Chapeau, as we called him, came and he would stand just by the pen when I was in there with another foal. And they call it holding the energy. He would literally, his eyes would half shut, and he'd be literally zoning this foal. It's okay. She's fine. Just chill. Yeah. And I really felt he helped me. And all of those foals became tame much quicker with his help. And he's always continued to help. So since then, if we've had a little addition of a foal or an orphaned foal into our project, or even a tricky newcomer, it's always Mr. Chapeau who comes and says, right, I want to help here.
And Dawn, do you think that one of the reasons for doing that and for supporting you and for helping you is that he knows that you saved him that day?
He absolutely knows that we saved him, that it is without question, because the vet said when he saw him, this is bad. Yeah, he has got pneumonia. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if he slipped away in the next few days. This is when we first brought him off the moor. So yeah. I think he knew that he was on his last legs, and he knew that he needed help.
Courage, my soul, I want to hear you sing. Loosen my heart till it becomes a wing. To fly, to fly, to fly. Courage, my soul, I want to hear you sing. Loosen my heart till it becomes a wing.
That has been the same with another foal, Lady Luna, who we found her mother had passed away from tetanus that morning out on the moor in Hoare Oak Valley, and she was lying next to her mother, about 5 weeks old, a wild foal who'd come from Brendon Common, thousands of acres, and over an hour I sat with her, and she eventually touched her muzzle to my hand. And I thought, if I can make a bond of trust with you somehow, then there's just a chance that we can get you off the moor. And it was just amazing that they managed to get her, because she's now, she'd be 4 this year.
Wow.
And she is the most beautiful pony. And she was adopted when she got here. Mr. Chapeau looked after her at the beginning. And then one of my mares, who had a 2-year-old daughter still suckling from her, was generous enough to let her suckle a bit. and she's still, her guardian now.
Oh.
And so she's in the herd. So, I mean, they do know, because she was exactly the same. She knew she was in trouble, and she didn't panic at all.
Well, I got open eyes and an open door, but I don't know what I'm searching for. I should know by now. Well, I've a big old heart, this I know for sure, but I don't know what my love is for. I should know by now. Well, I wait in line so I can wait some more, I can't remember what I came here for, but I can't leave now, 'cause I've a light that shines and a love so pure, but I don't know what to use them for. I should know by now. Well, I spent my money, I lost my friends, I broke my mobile phone. 3 a.m. and I'm drunk as hell, and I'm dancing on my own. Taxi cabs ain't stopping, and I don't know my way home. Well, it's hard to find a reason when all you have is doubts. Hard to see inside yourself when you can't see your way out. Hard to find an answer when the question won't come out. Oh, everyone's filling me up with noise, I don't know what they're talking about. Everyone's filling me up with noise, I don't know what they're talking about. Everyone's filling me up with noise, I don't know what they're talking about. You see, all I need's a whisper in a world that only shouts.
Oh, what a beautiful song that is. Whisper by Passenger. And there's a lyric in that song that says, all I need is a whisper in a world that only shouts. Do you know what? That really struck a chord with me, because often it's very true in life anyway, isn't it? But for the ponies, that's exactly what they have in Dawn. A whisper, an emotional connection, a mutual respect. And that certainly touches my heart.
You're listening to Somerset Cool with Jenna Myles on Froome FM.
Well, talking of whispers and noise, there's often lots of noise around various challenges in any community, isn't there? But on this show, I wanted to cut through that and chat to Dawn about some of the critical issues facing Exmoor ponies both today and in the future.
So one of the jobs that is really perfect for Exmoor ponies, with their hardiness and the fact that they've got these long-standing genetic and learned behaviours of living free living and extensively grazing, is that they are perfect for conservation grazing and rewilding projects. And although they're also brilliant performance ponies, sometimes there aren't enough jobs for them, or people might want, bigger horses to do the traditional equestrian disciplines with. So one of the perfect jobs is rewilding and conservation grazing. And rewilding is a big subject at the moment. We've really got to look at how we manage the planet. We've got to think about climate change, biodiversity, and how we make the most of our natural spaces. And part of protecting the flora and fauna and making the most of these natural spaces is ensuring that we have these spaces grazed in the right way. Now, Exmoor ponies are fantastic conservation grazers because they have an ability to prune rather than tear at plants. And you could put them in a field where they'll eat the grass, but they'll leave rare plants like orchids alone.
Wow.
They'll rather than tear up bushes and plants like gorse, they will snap at them with their very strong teeth that act like pruners. So, of course, that has a really good effect on the vegetation. They're very good at living on their own. They're very self-sufficient. They've got incredibly hard feet, so they wear their feet really well. But one of the problems that is occurring, while there are fantastic opportunities for Exmoor ponies, and quite frequently they're chosen as the perfect native breed for conservation grazing in the UK and across projects in Europe, Germany, Denmark, Czechoslovakia, there are lots of instances where people have got chosen Exmoor ponies. One of the things we've got to consider about rewilding, as everybody's learning, how to do it, is that they are in fenced enclosures still, because these rewilding projects are areas where they're designated areas and they have to put a boundary around it.
Yes.
So if you put animals into a fenced enclosure that are not wild, and Exmoor ponies are not wild, they're semi-feral, they're not wild animals, then these ponies need a sustainable food source. You can't just put them in there and say, there we are, there's your habitat, go in there, breed, and live or die. That is actually unethical, and it's not an acceptable animal welfare consideration for those animals. That applies to native cattle as well, like Alloway cattle that are often used for these rewilding projects.
Yes.
And what's happened in various different projects across Europe is funding has stipulated, they mustn't be fed any supplementary food. It's got to be absolutely wild. Well, that's okay if you put a herd of ponies into a habitat which will sustain them all year round. But what happens, as we've discovered recently in Denmark, if you put them into a rewilding area where the winter grazing does not sustain them and they starve?
Yes.
And there's a very big difference between Exmoor ponies used in rewilding in this country, where they're protected by the Animal Welfare Act of 2006, which says you cannot cause any unnecessary suffering. So there's a duty of care to the animals, and that's brilliant, because there's a consequence for someone like the Exmoor Pony Society or World Horse Welfare to say, hey, hold on a minute, you're not looking after those ponies properly, you can't let them starve, and if we need to, we'll take you to court. There's a process. Now, in Europe, where Exmoor ponies are used in projects where they say there's no supplementary feeding and they're not covered by an act like the Animal Welfare Act, we have seen evidence of ponies being allowed to starve to death over the winter or get into such an appalling malnourished state that, that people in that country are going mad, and saying it's not right. And this is happening repeatedly, and it's a real concern. So Denmark has recently legislated to lower the welfare standards for animals used in rewilding compared to farm animals, which is really alarming because, as I said, Exmoor ponies are very popular choice of breed for these projects, and they're looking to roll out rewilding projects across another 15 of their national parks.
Right.
Now, if they're going to allow a percentage of the ponies to starve to death over the winter, that's horrible. It's not just their death that's awful, it's the suffering that has actually caused a hardy, self-sufficient pony that can rely on rough grazing. Starve means that it would go through a horrendous process.
It's absolutely horrific, and it's unbelievable that could ever be allowed. So Dawn, what is it that we can do about this?
Well, it's quite encouraging in that, talking about this and promoting throughout different social media and websites and engaging with people in Denmark. It's where they've got a group of some 8,000 people that are all saying, look, this can't happen. You mustn't let this happen. You've got to feed these ponies. It's actually highlighted that there is a real distinction between rewilding and wild animals and semi-feral animals. And there's a real distinction between the duty of care that is established and protects animals in the United Kingdom that is not there and in other areas of the world. So what we're doing, we are liaising at the moment with the Exmoor Pony Society, with the Rare Breed Survival Trust, with World Horse Welfare, and through the All-Party Parliamentary Committee for the Horse. There is discussion and liaison going on. We all agree that there needs to be better guidelines for breeders of Exmoor ponies and for our breed organisations and breed groups to take to projects like rewilding projects or when we sell ponies or to give to well-established herds abroad, proper guidelines that say, look, when you use Exmoor ponies in conservation, this criteria really needs to be followed, and what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable and why. And we are in the process of formulating a set of guidelines that just need to be evolved. And I think we can't blame anyone that they're not established properly already, because really rewilding projects are increasing and we're all evolving. And so I think this is a very good move, and I think there will be progress on this. It's also encouraging people to work together, which is fantastic because it's a small breed, and it's just the best chance for the breed in the future is if everybody can just try and work together for the good of ponies.
Is easy to do. The things that you wanted, bought them for you. Christmas lady,
The incredible Sundays there with their version of Wild Horses. And I hope you'll agree it's been insightful, it's been moving, and it's been fascinating catching up with Dawn Westcott in today's Somerset Cool special dedicated to the incredible Exmoor Ponies. Do head over to wildponywhispering.co.uk to keep up to date and to support Dawn. And also check out her Twitter, Facebook and Instagram as well. At Exmoor Pony Project on Instagram and Facebook, and at Exmoor Pony Club on Twitter. And if you were wondering about the music that I used in the part of our chat about Monsieur Chapeau, you can find that and lots more at Darling Khan, that's Darling, KHAN.com. And I will be creating a special follow-up programme later in the year when I'll head to the Exmoor Pony Project and record from there whilst meeting the ponies in person. And honestly, I cannot wait for that and to share it with you as well. For now, though, I just want to say a massive thanks to Dawn for her time and her insight, and to you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. And today, we're playing out with a new song from a brand new band. I'm going to start finishing these Somerset Cool shows by showcasing some new musical talent. And after hearing a snippet of this one on Instagram, I immediately loved it, and it's been in my head ever since. This is Parma Violet Gin by Stereo Club, who herald from Cardiff. And I've got to say, any lyrics that include listening to hip hop, playing at the chip shop, gets my support. And their video for the song was shot in Barry Island as well, which has fond memories for me. So hope you enjoy it. And until next time, have a brilliant few weeks.